C is just a virus. It doesn't do a whole lot other than want to live in your liver and make more copies of itself. So the word hepatitis has to do with hepa, which is the liver, anything having to do with the liver, itis, which means irritated or diseased. And we know that there are different viruses that once they're in the body, their home base is the liver. The primary viruses we see in this country are hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C.
So anytime someone was exposed to someone else's blood, and that could happen through blood transfusions before 92, organ transplantation before screening, people on dialysis, people with hemophilia, as well as people who inject drugs. All were identified as high-risk populations, as were people living with HIV, because many of the same modes of transmission for HIV are also true for hepatitis C. Their immune system tries to fight it, and this battle goes on in a very silent way in their liver for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And it may also be causing other problems. Hepatitis C is linked to things like the development of type 2 diabetes, as well as lymphomas and kidney disease. But what happens to some people is over time their livers scar, leading to cirrhosis. But it's only at that stage, when the liver can no longer function, that symptoms become obvious.
When you're having all that itching, that's because your liver was acting up.
I had no symptoms. It didn't affect anything that I was doing. So I didn't respond to it.
And once you get cirrhosis, your liver can stop working.
And the idea is if you don't know you have it, you can't get the treatment and you can't be cured.
China is battling a new and rapidly spreading respiratory virus. The number of people infected has tripled to more than 200, and President Xi says it needs to be resolutely contained. Now, the virus first appeared in Wuhan in December. The authorities say it passed to humans from animals at this food market in the city. But if it began in Wuhan, then there were cases recorded in Beijing, Shanghai and Shenzhen. We also know South Korea and Japan have confirmed one case each, and there are 2 confirmed cases in Thailand. 3 people have died from pneumonia, which has been caused by the virus. Well, we had this update earlier from the China National Health Commission confirming the virus has passed person to person and has infected some medical staff. We also heard from the spokesman for the China Foreign Ministry today, who called the outbreak an epidemic. Well, the virus is understood to be a new strain of coronavirus. Here's one expert to help us understand that.
Coronaviruses come in different forms. They can be as mild as just causing a common cold, but SARS is also a coronavirus, and those of us who work in public health have a sort of reflex fear when we see that a coronavirus is emerging.
Also today, the World Health Organization says it will convene an emergency committee of what it calls the novel coronavirus. That will happen on Wednesday, the 22nd of January, 2 days' time. Now, the WHO isn't recommending any restrictions on travel or trade, but it does have some advice if you're in affected areas. That includes clean hands with soap, water, or alcohol-based hand rub, and it says avoid unprotected contact with wild or farm animals. Now, next I want to show you this, because for the last week, China has been using these infrared thermometers at airports, railway stations and coach stations in Wuhan. Passengers with fevers are being registered, given masks and taken to medical facilities. But there's a challenge. Here's another expert on why it's much easier to identify people who may have the virus when they're on the move than when they're in their hometowns.
If you study international travellers, which is one thing we've done, it's easier to see the cases because it's a small number of people, you can test them, you can screen them. Actually, on the ground, the priority is to give good information, accurate information. So agreeing a case definition and testing all those many suspect cases is far more difficult.
Well, next let's hear from Dr. William Schaffner, an infectious disease specialist, on another challenge this new virus is posing.
We don't know, for example, yet whether people infected with this virus who have only mild illnesses can spread it. At the moment, we have a story of a so-called super spreader, a person who was in the hospital who spread it to, as I understand it, 14 healthcare workers. Whether that's common or uncommon is still not known. So exactly how contagious this virus is, person to person, is still a bit of a mystery.
Now, in its editorial, China's state-run newspaper, the China Daily, which you can find online as well, and this is the Global Times too, has been telling the public to remain calm and analyse the situation objectively. Other official media today is circulating with guides to help people avoid catching the virus. This one, for example, we know is telling people that some people are panicked about the illness, but there are 9 pictures to help people understand it and presumably stay a little calmer. This one mentions the symptoms of coughing, a headache and a fever. It also goes on to say, look, this virus is not SARS or MERS. SARS was also a coronavirus that killed more than 700 people back in the early 2000s. So that's the official story. Let's find out what else is being said. Kerry Allen is a China media analyst with BBC Monitoring. She's live with us now. Hi, Kerry. How much information is available about the virus?
Well, at the moment, not a lot, because there's still an investigation going on as to what exactly this virus is. So this has been one of the big questions that's been coming out online amongst people. I mean, at the moment, a lot of people aren't working. They're travelling home to see their families for Spring Festival. And so they're asking a lot of questions online.